The NBC, which is technically insolvent, received just $54 million in the midterm budget review that was tabled by the Minister of Finance, Kalesh on Tuesday. Now, the NBC at least expected $100 million to survive until the end of its financial year ending March 31st, 2020. Now, in studio tonight, we are joined by the chairman of the NBC board, Mr. Sven Thieme.
Good evening.
Good evening and welcome. Well, Chairman, perhaps you can briefly just sketch out for us what the real financial problems of the NBC are, of course, and then also taking into consideration what the debts are, the payments that are not being made to creditors and so forth.
Yeah. First of all, we need to understand that the NBC fulfills a national obligation. The Namibian nation has the constitutional right to information, access to information, and that requires that you have to have a certain infrastructure that comes with cost. And there are areas, many areas where only a few people live, you have to have towers. So all of that comes with a large amount of costs. Now, against the cost stands revenue. The revenue sources are one, TV license, and as we all know, TV license have not been adjusted for many years. So, that is already a huge pressure on the NBC. The second thing is the advertising income. We have managed to increase this over the last 4 years. We're very proud of that, and despite the difficult circumstances. And then, of course, the third major income is the government's subsidy, which was then cut unilaterally 2 years ago, basically, without a plan. So that's where we got into the situation that the costs we need to incur is no longer covered by the revenue. And that coupled, of course, with old debts before 2000 and tax obligations that have not been met over the many years, which have put the NBC where it is today. So going forward, we have to have a clear understanding of what we want with the NBC.
Now, government subsidy has been reduced. At least TV advertising revenue has increased, but of course then the TV license fees have remained stagnant, as of course that you've mentioned, with no plan from government standpoint. What is your plan that you are looking to put in place to ensure that the NBC is able to at least make it to the end of this financial year?
Yeah, there's one thing for sure. When there's always a plan, there's always a possibility. What we have put forward is a plan by which we streamline the business. Now, one of the key factors in there is to centralize radio and television. At the moment, we're duplicating all these functions. And secondly, we need to find then the right or the appropriate staff complement that can run such an institution, and that is where we streamline the business. That alone will cut out over 100 million a year. So every year we don't make the decision, we're actually wasting over 100 million. So the plan is there, but it has to be executed, and I think there's enough evidence that when we all come together as Namibians, being at the board and the various ministers, and our minister is fighting a hard battle, that we need to go that route of restructuring the business, and then the NBC's got a future, and a sustainable future. And can you just imagine when we get that right, what else we could provide? Maybe an educational channel or any other of these other things. And that's where people are scared that there may be job losses. Yes, of course, but most of the time when you do streamlining, what happens is that you create new opportunities, and that actually creates jobs again.
Now, you touched on the NBC's mandate, of course, being then informing, educating, and of course then entertaining the nation at large. You touched on the mere fact that the board itself does have a plan in place, i.e. the government themselves not actually coming through to the table. Would you say then, in your view, that the government actually then, or in terms of looking at the reflection of the allocation that has been made, that the government in some way does sort of not attach a value and importance to the NBC?
I'm not so sure that I think the government does attach a lot of value to it. I think there is more a misunderstanding of the entire situation. Some people think it's mismanaged, some people think it's this or it's that. No, it is a situation that we have circumstances that have led us to this. And I think if we all have the same understanding, we would be sitting in one room and discussing it. But until the day that we don't get together and find a plan, then we will stay as we are. But I absolutely believe that government and many who's part of the official side do know the value of it. I think where we need to get to is understand we need to implement a plan which we have suggested, and if we do that, I think we have a future.
Now, in view of a declining subsidy from government standpoint, are you optimistic about the 2020-21 budget, and of course then looking at the NBC in terms of its future existence?
Well, if we continue as we do right now, I have no reason to be optimistic. But I'm an optimist, and I think we are trying our utmost. We have implemented austerity measures to really try and save costs and maybe raise the understanding what's really required. You know, what's another understanding one should have? Most public broadcasters worldwide are fully funded by government because it fulfills a certain mandate.
Correct.
And until we change the mandate, that we say we only want to inform a few people of Namibia, then we can cut cost, and then the 140 million that we had so far is maybe sufficient.
But where to next from here?
We'll have to come together. We'll have to find that plan and implement this. And maybe, I don't know, until the day comes that we fully understand, something has to be done.
Absolutely agree. Mr. Thieme, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for making the time to join us. Well, there you have it. That was the board chairman of the NBC, Mr. Sven Thieme, just talking to us about the current financial situation of the NBC, and of course then outlining specifically what it is that needs to happen in order for the NBC to continue to operate.